The film starts, and we are shown a building on which a boy was standing. His condition was very bad, and it seemed that he would still fall. As soon as he was about to fall, the scene is cut here, after which we are shown a professor who is giving a lecture to her students about insomnia, which is such a disease in which a person cannot sleep for an hour. The professor says that I also had this disease. I also could not sleep properly. There were some other students who told the professor that we also have a disease like insomnia. Then a girl whose name is Jane tells him, sometimes I do not sleep for 3 days. Jane's parents were not there. She lives with her younger sister and grandmother. She used to study until late at night, checking the door of her house again and again, whether it was properly closed or not. She also had a small restaurant, for which she used to start cooking food at 4 o'clock. Now Jane, who used to wake up late at night, does not come home. When she reached her house in the morning, Jane was very angry at her sister. She asks why you were out of the house until late at night, and where have you come from? Her sister does not answer her and goes inside. Then she gets a letter from the bank that she will have to pay her loan as soon as possible. Jane gets very upset. She thinks, how will she do all this so soon? She had to leave her studies and get a job. She also goes to talk to her professor about this. She was the same professor that we saw at the beginning of the story, giving a lecture on insomnia. She says, Jane, I think students like you should not leave studies. Because Jane was very good in her studies. Yes, if you want, you can do a job in a part-time lab. She gives a German lab card to Jane. She says that this company is doing research on patients like you. That is, people who do not sleep. If you go there, they will test you, and in return they will give you a lot of money. She heard the professor and went to the lab. There, she is shown a video in which it was being told that our brain makes some hormones through which we can treat patients in comas. And it will be made when a person keeps awake. If he goes to sleep, then this hormone cannot be made in our body, and for this test, you are here. The name of this research program is Deep, which is also the name of this movie, which has 3 levels. After this video ends, a doctor comes, who is answering Jane's questions. He says that this hormone is found in insomnia patients. Jane, who does not sleep, asks the doctor, how much money will I get in return for this? He says that if you complete 1 level, you will get 100,000. Jane signs the project papers as soon as she hears the money. The doctor now injects a chip behind her neck. He says that this chip will keep collecting hormones from your brain until you keep awake. And when this chip is completely filled, your first level will be completed. He ties a watch to her hand. He says that this watch will keep telling you how much hormone is stored in your chip. And until this watch does not reach 100%, do not remove it. And yes, one more thing. This is our secret project. You will not tell anyone about it. The last time the doctor told you that if you sleep by mistake, the alarm on your watch will start. And you will have to keep awake. Otherwise, your heart will explode and you can die. Jane hears this and says, what are you telling me now? The doctor says, do not be afraid. This chip will be quickly filled before you fall asleep. On the first day, Jane does not sleep. She studies late at night. At that time, the level of hormones had increased by 40%. Then she goes to her grandmother's room to see her. She was looking for something under the bed. Jane starts massaging her grandmother. Her younger sister comes home late at night. When she was scolding her, her phone fell down and broke. Her younger sister was angry with her and left. Now comes the second day, where Jane was eating at her college canteen. A boy came and sat next to her. He looks at the watch on her hand and asks if you are in deep. Then Jane hid her hand. That boy says, do not be afraid. I am also in deep. It is shown here that his name was Vin, who was often busy at parties late at night. He also had insomnia and could not sleep. Then he points to a boy there and says, look at him, his name is Chin. And he is also a part of the Deep project like us. It is shown about Chin, who was a YouTuber. She also could not sleep. She was also participating in Deep. Now another boy comes here who was Vin's friend. He is a gamer who does not get tired of playing games all night. He also had insomnia. Here, they tell each other about themselves. Vin's friend says that if we go to sleep, we can die. Jane says we can't sleep. Like us, insomnia patients, we can't sleep. Like us, insomnia patients, and they were very happy that after completing the first level they will get a lot of money. They also take each other's numbers. Within 3 days, these 4 had completed 100%. That is, the first level was completed. Everyone was very happy. Now they go to the doctor and take their own money. They had seen so much money for the first time. Vin's friend buys a gaming gadget, so Chin gets an expensive fishing trip. While Vin had bought an expensive car, he also sees a bike there and thinks, I wish I had this too. Jane had paid some of her bank loan. She also sees an expensive phone there, so she remembers her sister whose phone was broken. She thinks, I wish I could take it. They were very happy. Now Jane tells everyone that since we have completed the first level, I don't know why I feel like someone is following us. Vin says, we didn't wake up. I think you have started dreaming. Jane asks everyone here that if we are called for the second level, will you go? They say yes, and we will definitely go. When they saw so much money, and their needs were also increasing. They also make their WhatsApp group, after which Jane leaves here. Vin started liking Jane. Jane came to her house and gave her sister a new phone, on which she was very happy and asked, where did you get so much money from? On which Jane tells her, what does it matter to you? You just pay attention to your studies. A few days ago her mom died, and Vin didn't even talk to his dad. Jane also has a fight with her mom. Now all four of them had reached the lab, and go and ask the doctor about the second level. On which he says that the second level is going to be a little difficult. Yes, you will have to lose sleep for 5 days. Hearing all this for the first time, they say, will we keep waking up like this for 5 days? Now Jane asks, how much money will you give us? On which he says that 5 lakhs. Hearing this, everyone went crazy with happiness. And here they start dreaming. Vin had to buy a new bike. Jane, who gets very beautiful by getting plastic surgery. Vin's friend who liked Jane, he had even married her. And Jane had paid all her loans. She was ready for the second level. The third day is shown. Vin's friend was already sleepy. And he also wants to sleep, but with the alarm of the clock. When he woke up, the condition of these four was very bad. Due to not sleeping on the second level even after 3 days, their hormone level was very low. The lowest was Jane. Then she went and saw some other girls have also tied the clock. Were they also in the deep? Jane's sister's daughter is playing the guitar, so she gets angry at him and tells him to go. Jane's sister was telling him, I don't know what has happened to you. Since you have money, you have changed. But all this was happening with Jane because she was not sleeping. Jane heard her sisters talk and left. Then her sister sees the card of the same German lab on her table. And now, in the next scene, we are shown the 4th day of the second level, when Jane and everyone else we were doing research on a dead body in the lab. Actually, they were all medical students. That's why Jane thinks the dead body is talking. When she removes the cloth, she sees her grandmother's face. Seeing which she screamed because she had not slept. Jane was now hallucinating. When these four sit together, they talk to each other, that even after so many days their hormone level is so low. Here only Vin's hormone level was high. Jane asks, do you work out or exercise? Vin says, yes, I play basketball. Jane says it means we have to keep our bodies active. Like we are waking ourselves up. We have to wake up our body. Vin says, that's it, let's do it. Now that these four have a lot of fun, they do parties. They were having a lot of fun. Here Vin shows them a substance that doesn't make them sleepy. Jane asks, where'd you get this? Vin says, yes, I know, I stole it from the lab. Jane says, do you know, you can be arrested by the police. Vin says, don't be afraid. He mixes it into the juice. He drinks it himself. They all drink it. Now they sing and have a lot of fun. Jane doesn't know what happened. She walks like a zombie and dances a lot. Actually, this was happening to them because of the substance. On the other side, Jane goes to Vin's friend's room, where she could hear her own voice. When she goes to see them, her videos are playing on the computer screen. She understands here that the juice, she thought someone was following her. This was Vin's friend. Jane thought he was a psycho lover. She thinks about it and becomes conscious. Her alarm starts ringing. All three of them come to the room. Vin's friend cries seeing her. He says, I did all this so that I could tell her how much I love her. Jane sees that she has stopped breathing. She was breathing from her mouth. At last, in a few seconds, Jane came to her senses. She sees that her hormone level is 100%, which means she had completed the second level. In this state, she goes to the doctor and asks him to give her money. The doctor says, wow, you have passed the second level, which no one has ever been able to do. You can do the third level. The doctor says, give us our money. Then they came back with their money. In the morning, all four of them were sleeping, as if they had slept for a long time. After completing their sleep, they go to college. Jane's professor tells her that you have scored very low in your test. Although you are a good student, whatever you are doing to earn money is fine, but don't ruin your studies. Jane's friend apologizes to him. He says, I did all this to propose to you. Jane says, don't follow me again. Otherwise, I will tell the police. Saying this, she left. Jane's friend asks him to go to the concert. But Jane refused him, because now she wanted to focus on her studies. One day, Jane sees a girl die in college. She was wearing a watch on her hand, which was also a part of the DEEP project. But she died due to insomnia. One day, Jane's grandmother had a heart attack. She was shifted to the hospital. But there was no money for her treatment, because all the money was paid by Jane. Then her sister brings the money. On the money packet was the logo of the same company. Jane says, can you earn money, not me? I brought this money from where you brought it. She sees her sister's neck, which had a chip injected, after which her sister also left. Jane was very worried about her sister. She wanted to save her sister. She goes to the lab to find her sister, where the doctor had inserted a third-level chip behind her neck. He says, if you and your friend agree for the third level, then I will remove this chip from your sister's neck. Jane was very worried. On one side, her grandmother is in the hospital. On the other side, her sister was at the mouth of death. She tells all this to her friends. Vin agreed immediately, but Jane and Vin's friend refused. They did not want to put their lives in danger. The next day, Jane, her sister, and Vin reach the lab. Vin says, I thought a lot, but I can do anything for friendship. Now they happily go to the doctor. Here Jane asks Vin, I know you must have a plan or an idea, with which we will also cross the third level. She says, yes, I have taken help from my college professor, who told me about this deep experiment. She will give us a place in the lab. In the lab, the professor also gives her an injection. The professor says, forgive me kids, you are stuck because of me, I will help you. If you have any problems you can contact me. From the intercom here. Now the first day goes by normally. She had been here for 6 days. That means she had been awake for 6 days. Vin's friend sees a bright light. When Jane is about to die, she sees a pimple on her face. Many pimples were formed from one pimple. Her beautiful face was ruined. Jane sees a scar. She feels like her sister is dead. Vin also sees a woman calling, who was his mother, who is now dead. Jane puts a cut on her face to remove the pimple. But the cut had now come to her face. She was very sad to see it, and in anger she comes out and starts fighting with Jane. She says, it was my fault that I put my life in danger for your sister. Along with that, Vin's friend also gives who used to like him, and that's why Vin had a fight. Jane now tries to call the professor quickly, but she doesn't come. When she goes outside, Vin's friend sees her in the camera. She was being kept an eye on. She was doing the job of a professor. Jane is very surprised to see all this, that she is doing all this with a professor. She also sees the picture of the same doctor, who was doing research on them, who also put a chip on their neck. Actually, he was not a doctor, but a colleague of the professor. And she tells him that the professor is using us. This is all their plan. Everyone tries to call the police. That's when they hear the professor's voice, who was saying that you would not work here. Everyone gets very worried. On the 7th day, everyone was half dead, because it had been a week since they had slept. Here, Jane was breaking all the cameras. On the 8th day, Vin's watch was at 0%. He was dead. The professor takes him out of the lab and takes out his chip. That's when Vin hits his head with a stick, with which the professor fell down. Now we understand their plan. Actually, they were all medical students, so Vin had used such a medicine. Everyone comes to the professor and asks, why did you do this to us? Here, the professor shows a patient. Actually, this was the same boy who we saw at the beginning of the story, who was about to jump from the roof. He used to study with the professor, and the professor liked this boy. He was doing research when he could not sleep. He was in a coma, and when I started giving him insomnia hormones, his condition got better. Jane got angry when she heard this. She said, what does this mean? Will you kill your students to cure him? She said, yes. What would you do if you love someone? That's when she puts Jane on an injection. The professor was trying to make Jane happy, but her heart rate goes down, and everyone thinks that she is dead. Her sister was crying a lot. She remembers him and hits him, with which Jane came to her senses. At the end of the story, we are shown that all the students were saved, who were part of this deep project. Jane also takes care of her grandmother. Vin and Jane had come close. They started talking about the message. Jane and Vin's friend was also busy in their lives. So get into the habit of sleeping for 8 hours. Otherwise, what will happen? You have seen this, what can happen in our lives if we don't sleep. So don't go without a reason.